A-level sociology students, we're going to max our marks. This time we're going to look at a 10 marker from paper 1 question 3. And we're going to focus on utilising the item effectively to ensure that you get the best possible marks. So if we break down the question, it's asking you to apply material from the item, but it tells you it more than once. It tells you it here, here and here, so that's 3 times. And it wants you to analyse 2 things. Now the things that you're going to be looking for is going to be hidden in the item, and that's what you've got to be identifying. In this case, it's the hidden curriculum. Okay, so what we're looking for here is 2 ways that the hidden curriculum may reproduce the class structure. So this information that you've got to find is in the first 2 sentences. The first way is sentence number 1. In schooling, pupils are told everybody has the same opportunity to succeed. The second hook is schools prepare pupils for the workplace. Now, some of you might be wanting to use the mark scheme to help you answer these questions. So what you're looking for on the mark scheme is in this top box, and it basically tells you what the 2 hooks are. So hook number 1 is this one. Everybody has the same opportunity to succeed. Basically, the hidden curriculum is reinforcing the myth of meritocracy. Okay, so we've got this idea of meritocracy. And the second hook is schools preparing pupils for the workplace. It's basically saying this here, that they are learning to obey authority and accept their position in the workplace. Now, the question doesn't just ask you to do that. It asks you also to talk about how is it reproducing the class structure. And the item also reminds you to do that as well, because it tells you this here in this final sentence, and it's basically rewriting the question, and it's sort of nudging you to write about that. Now, it is important to note that when we look at the examiner report, is that the majority of students did recognise those 2 hooks that I've just talked about. However, there are some students who are tempted to use the item by making reference to the last line of the item, which is a reword of the question, and that is not seen as a valid use of the hook that requires development. So basically, the 2 hooks that you've got to be identifying is always going to be in this top part, and this final sentence is always going to be a rewrite of the question, just to remind you to make sure that you link to that part of the question as well. Now, if we go back to the mark scheme will also tell you how to get the analysis or the evaluation, but basically this is your AO3. Okay, and one way that you can do it is to what extent does something happen, and that is analysis, because we know that not all working class students will passively accept this idea that schooling is meritocratic, and some fail to accept the myth of meritocracy. And I know that some students use Willis and the working class lads and how they rejected it, for example. And you could also evaluate this idea about preparing pupils for the workplace. Well, what kind of workplace does or do we need? So in capitalism, we needed passive workers who are obeying authority, whereas in a post-Fordist economy, we want workers that are adaptable, skilled, ready to be retrained, and so on. So there is 2 ways that you can even develop your AO3 there. So hopefully this has given you some ideas about how you would approach this question. Coming up, I will be looking at how to structure a paragraph for this. Good luck.